What's up, weirdos? We're back with episode 3 of the Rocket League Bootcamp. If you remember from my settings video, I promised we'd start getting into some fun stuff soon. So in this video, we're going to be going over what I've dubbed the core car control mechanics of Rocket League. Each of these mechanics can be performed without touching the ball and are the building blocks for any and all high-level mechanics and should be completely understood by someone looking to improve their car control. Let's dive in.
Tell me what you like, tell me what you like.
If you haven't been keeping up with the series, I do need to make it clear that it's been made with new and inexperienced players in mind, but for you ball-chasing veterans, there may be some info you may find useful, and your feedback is very much appreciated. Now, we're not going to be touching the ball quite yet. This guide is all about car control. Like I mentioned in episode 1, you need good car control before you can achieve good ball control. So I'll go over each mechanic, tell you everything I know about them and what I think is important to know, and then give a quick way for you to practice and get a feel for each. Okay. I can tell you're getting antsy, so let's load up free play and take a look at our first mechanic.
Supersonic speed.
Supersonic speed is the speed of your car when it reaches about 96% of the max speed your car can go. You'll know when you've reached the speed when a trail begins to emit from your tires. Now you can always maintain this speed by holding accelerate or power slide and continuing your path in a straight line. Once you begin your turn, however, you will begin to lose this speed rather quickly and you will need to boost to maintain that supersonic state. Now where does that last 4% come into play? Well, once you hit supersonic speed, you can tap your boost for one little last boot to push your car to the 100% max speed it can go. Just remember that this speed difference is almost negligible and situations will rarely present themselves where this knowledge becomes beneficial. But I do need to mention this before I explain the next bit. Using your boost after reaching 100% max speed is 100% loss of boost. And I know boost management falls more under game sense than it does mechanics, but get this into your thick skull immediately, boot. Building the habit to stop boosting when you reach supersonic speed and feathering your boost to maintain that speed while turning is essential to climbing the ranks. That wraps that up. Let's head on to dodges, aka flips. When you jump in Rocket League, you have 1.25 seconds to perform a second jump, otherwise known as a double jump. But if you hold any direction on your left joystick when you input the second jump, you'll perform a dodge. So you have the four, quote, cardinal directions: forwards, backwards, left, and right, as well as diagonal flips. Now go ahead and play around a little with the diagonal flips. Go on, I'll wait. You don't have free play open, do you?
Why do I even bother?
Anyway, you'll quickly notice that unless you're pushing your joystick directly at a 45-degree angle, the diagonal flip will take on more characteristics of the cardinal direction that you're pushing towards. You don't need to bother with why you should know this right now, just remember that there are a multitude of diagonal flips that you can perform. One more thing about dodges: the 1 1/4 second timer begins either at the time you let go of your jump button or reach the highest point in the jump. So tapping A to jump starts the timer much sooner than if you were to perform a higher jump by holding A down. Up next we have power slides. Super duper important mechanic. They're not only used in advanced mechanics, but also as a way to move around the field more efficiently and are the #1 mechanic to master when it comes to quicker recoveries. Faster recoveries means you use less boost and you stay relevant in plays even after a bad shot or a bad challenge. There's not a whole lot more I can say about power slides in such a short time, but I will, without a doubt, touch more on them in future videos. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on how to be a recovery god. Now, I've deemed mechanics as the physical side of Rocket League in a past video, but this mechanic is the literal definition of physical. We're talking about
Demolitions.
more commonly called demos. This is a proper way to take an opponent out of a play and more often than not induce a whole lot of rage. All you gotta do is find a victim, reach supersonic speed, and then drive into them with the front of your car. This will remove them from the game for a total of 3 seconds, and then spawn them on the right or the left of their goal near their 100 boost pad with a total of 33 boosts in the tank. Another strategy to use is known as a bump, which is using your car to shove an opponent out of the play without actually demoing them. Either way you decide to remove your opponents from a play or get removed yourself, remember that demos are a function of Rocket League and they're not going anywhere. So being good at inflicting demos is just as important as avoiding demos, and I'm sure I'll make a video going far more in depth on this in the future. Next up, we have flip cancels. For someone just beginning their journey on the pitch, this mechanic may seem daunting and quite frankly pointless, but in an upcoming episode, I will be going over why this mechanic is super important and why, even for beginners, it's important to know. A flip cancel is when you stop a forward or a backwards flip animation. This is a forward flip cancel, and this is a backwards flip cancel. And it's not hard to do, and since I know you must be in free play by now, I can prove it to you. To keep it easy, I'll only be referring to a backwards flip cancel for this example. All you gotta do is do a backwards dodge, and immediately after you press jump to start the dodge animation, you push your joystick forward very, very quickly and then hold it there. If you've done it right, you'll simply land on the roof of your car. That's all it is. Now, why is this a useful mechanic? For new players wanting to learn their first, quote, high-level mechanic, the half flip is where most begin, and one way to perform a half flip is with a flip cancel. In fact, if you were following along and gave the backwards flip cancel a try, you're already halfway to half flipping your way around the pitch. And one more thing to note on flip cancels, you cannot cancel left and right dodges, but you can cancel diagonal ones, which is the start to knowing how to speed flip. So as you can see, flip cancels are a very common route to many other mechanics. Onto aerial car control. This is where I'll probably lose some of you newer players. Every beginner fears the skies, but don't you dare skip to the next chapter, Boot. I myself am a huge advocate of using less aerial plays and keeping the ball near the ground, near me, and in my possession. But that just isn't always enough. If you're keen on playing threes, and especially if you're looking to become a freestyler, you're gonna have to conquer your fear of heights and
Fly, you fools!
I will be making a much more in-depth video soon on how to look like the Red Baron on the pitch, but for now, just try jumping, pulling back on your joystick, and then boosting to get a feel for how your car moves when it's not touching the ground. Now onto the 3 air rolls. Do you remember me touching on this in episode 2? Oh, you haven't seen episode 2? Check out the top right corner of your screen now. I do go over air roll bindings in that video. Highly recommend checking all that out because your air roll bindings are poopy if you're still using the default bindings. But back on track. In Rocket League, there are 3 different ways to roll your car while airborne. There's the normal or basic air roll, and then the 2 dedicated air rolls, right and left respectively. Let's look closer at normal air roll. To use this, you first need to be airborne, then press and hold your normal air roll button and move your joystick left or right, and holy moly, Boot, you're a natural. Look at you go. You still don't have free play open, do you?
What the fuck, man? You give, and you give, and you give?
Now with normal air roll, to begin your roll, you have to use your joystick. With the dedicated air rolls, your car will begin to rotate in the direction of its name. Air roll right rolls you right, and vice versa. So why on earth would you ever want to use the dedicated air rolls if you're only limited to one direction? Isn't that a huge waste of control? Well, that's a wonderful question, and it's something we'll cover far more in depth in a future episode, because honestly, a new player does not need to be overloaded with information on advanced aerial mechanics. Soon, my young Padawan, soon. First, let's just understand that there are 3 different air rolls and they all function differently from one another. So do play around with them and get a feel for how they each function. Bonus points for holding any direction on your joystick while using one of the dedicated air rolls. It will surprise you. The last core mechanic to cover is the unlimited flip timer. If you remember from a few minutes ago, I told you that after you jump, you have a 1 1/4 second timer to perform a dodge. But what if I told you there's a way you can hold onto your dodge for, well, forever?
What?
Players found out about 7 years ago that if your wheels leave a surface, including the ball, in any fashion other than jumping, there is no dodge timer. And just to prove it to you, I have been flying around the map on screen this whole time, holding on to my flip. So there you go. Now what does a new player do with this information? Well, not much, but I still view it as a core mechanic since you can still play around with it quite easily in free play. All you gotta do is drive up the wall to the ceiling, and then let gravity do its job. Then hold on to your dodge as long as you can and flip right before you hit the ground. Now, this mechanic is most commonly used for ceiling shots and flip resets, where you get your unlimited flip timer by touching all 4 wheels to the ball. But it does have its uses elsewhere, and will be a future topic to explore. Not really something a new player really needs to worry much about, but we are here to learn. So there you have it. You're now one step closer to never touching grass again. In the next few episodes, I'll be going more in depth on these mechanics and how to practice and use them in game. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of that. And if you found this video helpful, leave a like. And leave a comment below if you have any questions or think I could have done something differently. And you can catch me live on Twitch, link in the description if you ever have any questions. I'm always happy to help. But that's all I got for you guys.